Truth, truth, truth. Logic, logic, logic. Common sense, sense, sense. Close my eyes, let the whole thing pass me by. There is no time to waste asking why. I'll run away with you by my side. I'll run away with you by my side. I need to let go, let go, let go, let go of this light until this echo, 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 echo can subside. All right, y'all. Okay, Jay's singing. Y'all know I just absolutely see quite clearly the echoes of two cases. We are speaking of the Chad and Lori Daybell case. We are speaking of Ruby Frankie or Frank. I don't know which one it is, y'all. I would think Frankie would be I-E instead of with the E on the end. But it's neither here nor there, right? Then you got this crazy-ass Jody Hillebrand. Y'all, you're fixing to see application at its best when it comes to the echoes of these two cases. The Insider came out with an article. It was written by Lindsay Dodgson. And I couldn't help it, man. Ever since these two cases they were parallel and then they started to intersect, KJ just could not stop seeing things the way I was. The echo, right? The statement made by Jody Hillebrand when she was arrested on Wednesday, along with the mom influencer Ruby Frank, may come back to haunt Jody Hillebrand in an upcoming trial. And we don't know if they're going to have a trial. For all we know, Utah's going to let them off with a slap on the wrist. I posted on the community wall. They're recommending that 6 aggravated child abuse charges against these two women, that they should be let out, and be able to be where they're at. They don't have to sit in jail. Folks, this is exactly why all this stuff happens all over the United States. Because the judicial system isn't taking this shit serious. But back to Jody Hillebrand. This article talks about how she made a statement. And, of course, KJ got my mind pumping on that. And we're looking toward Chad Daybell's pre-trial and trial. I mean, the hussy, she is toast. I will touch a little bit on some of her statements after her conviction and now that she's into appeal, which, by the way, her allocution is part of the record, right? Well, an appellate court's going to have to hear that. They're going to have to look at the whole record when it comes to whatever Archie's talking about in terms of, her being able to get an appeal and all of that crap. The duo of Jody and Ruby there were charged with 6 felony child abuse counts, with police detailing Frank's 12-year-old son's harrowing escape from Hillebrand's home. The child climbed out of a window and sought help from a neighbor, according to a police affidavit that was shared with Insider. He was described in the documents as emaciated and wounded, with duct tape around his ankles. The boy was taken to a hospital with deep lacerations from being tied up with rope and malnourishment. Another child was then found at the residence, and Frank's 10-year-old daughter. The arrest followed years of concerns about Frank and her family, with viewers raising the alarm back in 2020 and neighbors repeatedly calling Child Protective Services and the police about strange activity in their Utah home. And let's just stop there for a second. How many freaking CPS reports were out on the hussy and the way that she was doing those children? I don't think there was anything. Do y'all? The arrest affidavit states that Frank had knowledge of the abuse, malnourishment, and neglect, as she was filming videos in Hillebrand's home just 2 days prior to the arrest. Frank did not make a statement at the time. Ruby didn't say anything, y'all. But guess what? Jody, the freaked out, crazy-ass woman did. It's Miss Hildebrandt requested a lawyer and did not speak with us, the affidavit reads, but once given the charges, Ms. Hildebrandt informed me the children should never be allowed around any other kids. Criminal defense attorney and legal commentator Natalie Whittingham Burrell, who has been covering the case on her YouTube channel, told Insider the jury in any upcoming trial is likely to hear the statement that Hildebrandt made because it could be used as evidence of the abuse. Y'all, where am I going with this? Application, the chinster, the gherkin. Think about his statements. Think about his voice on phone calls. Think about everything that his voice said at his own damn preliminary hearing. I think that that would indicate that she was aware of the abuse that was being committed against the children or participating, says this attorney, talking about Hildebrandt's statement there. And the attorney says it and believed that it was justified in some way because of some perceived danger of the children. She said this statement may give the prosecution the opportunity to look into all of Hildebrandt and Frank's old YouTube content, which have been the subject of much discussion and analysis from viewers for years. Prosecutors could argue to cite anything where they state their ideals on parenting and families and use that against them. I think she really did herself a disservice making that statement, says this attorney, about Jody there. Frank rose to fame as the mother of the family vlogging channel 8 Passengers, which grew to 2.5 million subscribers at its peak. Well, let's skip over a little bit of this, y'all. Whittingham Burrell, this attorney, said she advises people not to speak to police without an attorney present. This is simply to protect everyone's rights and make the state prove their case rather than giving them any help. If you fail to testify or to make a statement, the jury is instructed that they can't use that against you. So she would have been better off remaining silent, and she just didn't do that. So that statement right there that Jody Hildebrandt said, that's in the probable cause affidavit, y'all, is going to be very, very damaging to her case. So there you go. That's one case right there. And tomorrow at 1:30, I don't know if it's, I guess it's Utah time, so we'll have to figure that one out. They're going to be in court tomorrow. And hopefully these recommendations in Utah where these two women, all they have to do is call once a month and all that, will be booted out the door because they need to sit their ass in jail. But what of these statements that Chad or Lori or Ruby or, you know, Jody has said? What ones are going to be relevant in Chad Daybell's trial and perhaps Ruby and Jody's? Well, I've looked at it and I thought, well, there are absolutely a lot of things that old Chad has said with his own voice that can be admitted into a trial, that the jury can make healthy inferences about what the hell he's meaning on that. Obviously, we've been over this, y'all, but this is just to set the record straight on the application of these echoes of these two cases. My own children was there. They testified that Tammy had been getting weaker and sick, and I begged her to go to the doctor. There, her heart was failing her. She was physically falling apart. She hates doctors, and she just passed away. That's how it happened, says Chad Daybell. And that's his own voice in that secret recording of Melanie Gibb. We already know that a jury of Lori's, the Hussey's peers there, they believe Tammy had been murdered. Well, now you've got Chad Daybell making statements that was absolutely legally able to be admitted into his preliminary hearing. And make no mistake, y'all, everything that was in Chad's preliminary hearing will be part of his trial. If you think about the recordings, you think about, I'm through with Lori. Her appeal's not going anywhere, but we'll look at some of it as it pertains to her allocution, which that's her statement there, and it's part of the record. So yes, even though she stayed quiet throughout and everything, and even though she did get on the phone with Melanie Gibb, she's already convicted. An appellate court that's looking over this for appeals purposes are going to take her allocution into consideration. And that even includes one of the appeals issues that Archie talks about, whether or not Lori should have been sent back to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. He tried to get her back in there, and the judge said no. But let's get back to Chad Daybell. We know he said this, and we know this is going to be used against him by the prosecutor. Everything he talked about in that phone call with Melanie Gibb is going to absolutely be damning. We've already got a taste test of at least 80% of what the state has on Chad Daybell. There'll be other things. I'm assuming it will be more about Tammy Daybell to prove the first-degree murder. There are things they held close to the vest that they didn't use in Lori's trial. Also, let's keep in mind, Chad Daybell says, yeah. So Mark Means will be talking to you. Y'all know what this was the day that Lori called from jail. And Chad was sitting there, and they were looking in his backyard. We know that this is really going to open the eyes of any juror. And Lori says, okay, well, are they in the house? And Chad says, no, they're out on the property. And Lori says, are they seizing stuff again? And Chad says, they're searching. There's a search warrant, and we don't understand what he said in that, but he does say, with the kids. Not one word about what the hell is going on here. Chad Daybell doesn't say anything about that. He is just, it's damning. It's like him and Lori are on the same page in that phone conversation. They know the shit's fixing to hit the fan here. Lori asks, what can I do for you? And Chad says, I'm calm. I would call Mark, though. We need, you can talk with him. And throughout this conversation, which is a short one, he does talk about getting in touch with Mark Means. Lori even talks about, well, have you talked to him? So the whole conversation is about getting in touch with an attorney, i.e. Mark Means. Well, why would they need to do that? Why, if nothing is wrong, why do they need to do that? And then finally, y'all, here it is when we're talking about statements that can be used against Chad Daybell in a court of law. I have to look and think, Rob Wood talked to Summer Shiflett, and he made these statements to Summer talking about, Chad Daybell, and Summer brings up about how Lori wanted to talk to me, and I was like, yeah. And then the second I hung up with her, Chad called me to ask me about bail. Y'all remember the neighbors. At least two other people, the cousin of Lori also. Chad's wanting them to put their houses up for sale and all that other stuff. Summer says, for Lori, I've talked to him maybe 3 times briefly on the phone. Would she be called in Chad's trial? Would that be considered hearsay? And by the way, since Chad's been in jail, any recordings, other than him and his attorney, anything he talks about with anybody, with his kids, with anybody else, those are recordings that can be used by the prosecutor in his upcoming trial. Well, then we've got Rob Wood talking about, she actually was talking with Chad about talking with us about before we found the bodies, just a few days before, and he talked her out of it. And how does Rob Wood know that Chad Daybell talked Lori out of speaking with the state there, the prosecution team? Because it's recorded, y'all. Did we hear it? Did we hear it in Lori's trial? No, but we'll hear it in Chad's upcoming trial. Chad, everything, every statement that damn asshole makes, that's his voice, is fair game. And Rob Wood's been very clear. It was Chad Daybell that talked her out of it. Why couldn't Chad have, it's not about saying, yeah, it's okay or anything. Why wasn't Chad going, Lori, I don't know what's going on here. He could have been saying anything, but he tried to keep the hussy's mouth shut. Obviously, y'all know that the only time he wanted her mouth open was for other reasons. You know what I'm talking about. Then you've got things such as Rob Wood saying, I mean it, we were actually just finishing up our warrant on the date that Lori said that. We're just getting ready to go out that day. That would have been the time. It would have been better. And he talked her out of it. Why would Chad Daybell talk her out of it? We all know the answer to it because he's a slimy ass child killer and a killer of his wife. In my view, he also helped murder Charles Vallow. He was conspiring with that as well. So, these statements, all of these statements of Chad Daybell, and I'm sure y'all can think of other ones. Think about all the times that they talked about the text messages between Chad and Lori in Lori's trial. That's fair game. Anything that Chad Daybell, not what someone else heard, but him himself, whether his voice was recorded, whether he was on text message, also anything at all that can be gleaned about his guilt, which we already know he's guilty as hell, is going to be laid out there, laid bare, just as no different than Lori spreading her legs and laying it out there for old Chatty boy. When we're talking about Ruby Frank and we're talking about Jody Hillebrandt and Jody Hillebrandt making that statement that the children that were abused do not need to be around other children, i.e., that's why we put duct tape on them. That's why the little Russell went out the window. We wanted them away from other children. That is damning evidence. Tomorrow, we are going to, for sure, see where this is going to go. Are they going to release these two crazy-ass women back out here in Utah? Yeah, of course, they'll have these things they have to abide by. They're not going to want it. I ain't getting no trouble. But, folks, the bottom line is they need to stay in jail. Chad's there now for child murder and the murder of his wife. But the statements he's made, it's an echo, y'all. It's an echo. When the rubber meets the pavement, any statements from any of these evil, diabolical people will absolutely bury them. Absolutely do it. So, I just wanted to get with y'all on that. I wanted to make sure that y'all understand that tomorrow at 1:30 Utah time, these two women are coming in there that we're going to find out whether they're going to be released. Chad Daybell's attorney, John Pryor, is not going to be able to take any statements that Chad Daybell made himself, along with his behaviors for that matter, text messages, the fact that he was sitting on the phone with Alex and Lori all these pivotal times, and also the fact that, he's shooting a raccoon and he's burning limb debris. His ass is grass. Statements, y'all. Statements from evil people will come back to bite them on the ass. You believe it? I believe it. I love you all. We'll get together again this weekend. I want to see what happens tomorrow. Because guess what? It's not about the Ruby and Jody case for me. It's about echoes. Echoes of the two cases. We're going to damn find some shit out. You can be sure of it. So, I love you all. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think. If you know of other statements that Chad Daybell made, put them in the comments. I can't find it all. I know y'all know a hell of a lot more than OKJ does. So, let's get back together soon and keep on looking.